So, you messed up. Now what? You said something. You did something that you didn't mean to do. Or maybe you did mean to do it, but you won't forgive yourself for past mistakes and past wrongs. Well, today I want to talk to you about how to get free from condemnation. I want to talk to you about how to get free from the shackles of constantly having this tape playing in your head telling you that you're a horrible person. I want to talk to you about owning your own authenticity, as well as give you some tips on how to deal with those haters or people around you. And yes, I might be talking about your family, okay? Who keeps reminding you about those things, which makes it even harder for you to move on. Let's jump right into it. So, hey, I'm Rainey from Blessings and Gems, and let's go. So I want to open up the first part of our discussion by talking about the 5 A's as a roadmap for how to stop blaming yourself, how to stop beating yourself up, and how to move forward. The 5 A's have to do with acknowledging your feelings, accepting, apologizing to yourself, apologizing to others, and then acquiring new knowledge so that you get better. So let's talk about this acknowledging your feelings. So it's important for you to stop, really stop and think about how what you might have done or what you might have said made you feel. Were you sad about it? Were you mad about it? Were you maybe disgusted by your behavior or even disappointed? It's okay, but I want you to think about how did that make you feel? Because the first step to healing is to really sit in your feelings and your emotion around what actually occurred. And that really will help you embrace any emotions that come up and use those emotions to propel you to growth rather than stifling them, pushing them down, or pretending that they don't exist. So I want you to really acknowledge your feelings about the incident or the occurrence. The second A is accepting responsibility. Now, I just want to tell you, and you're going to hear me say this over and over again, I am so proud of you for clicking on this video, because a lot of people want to shift the blame to other people. They want to continue gaslighting. They want to continue blaming their past, blaming this person, blaming that person, and not accepting responsibility. They like to gaslight, use microaggressions to attack people, and they really don't want to take responsibility. You're here because I know you do, and I'm so proud of you for doing this. So taking responsibility is really admitting the truth about your actions that occurred. It's really confessing what you've done so that you're not slipping into denial or suppression or regression, or I like to also say conveniently forgetting what happened, although you really don't. It's actually in your subconscious, and it shows itself in different ways in your current life in different ways. So if you really didn't forget and you really didn't regress it or push it down, it still lives. But we can live in a state where it appears as though that it didn't happen. So taking responsibilities, whether unintentional or intentional, is going to be so key. And that it does matter what you did. This video is not about absolving you from anything that you've done, because I know I've done some things that I really weren't proud of. And so I didn't absolve myself of the actions that I took. Rather, it's saying, okay, here is what I did. So I'm acknowledging what I did. I'm accepting responsibility. And what really matters, my friend, is what you do next. What are you going to do next after you really think about what you've done and accept responsibility? We're going to move on to the next thing that I think you should do, and that is apologize to yourself. I start with this because oftentimes we are the hardest critics. I'm at a women's conference filming this right now, and I heard woman after woman come up and talk about things that happen in their life that really that they just haven't healed from, or they haven't dealt with, because they just haven't forgiven themselves for making certain mistakes. And we all make mistakes. We're all human. And it's also going to take time for us to do that. But for those of you who are believers in Christ Jesus, remember that there is now no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. And really what that means is, whether you believe in God or Jesus or whoever your God is or whoever you worship to, what we're really talking about today has to do with acknowledgement of what happened, repenting, so saying I'm sorry, and then pivoting, going in a different direction, not repeating the same things over and over and over again, because as we all know, that's the definition of insanity, and that's not what we're trying to do on this channel. We're trying to get better, and we all want to grow. So this idea about apologizing to yourself has to do with really, sometimes we process things and we're thinking about it and we're like, oh my goodness, and we're playing the tape over and over and over again. And that's good when we have a plan to deal with it. When we don't have a plan to deal with it, and that's why we're going over these strategies, then you end up in this state of depression, regression, anxiety, fear, shame, guilt, because you can't pull yourself out of it. Today, we're going to take steps. You're going to take steps to pull yourself out of it by continuing to be brave, because you're already listening to this video, and that's step number one, being courageous and finally dealing with that thing that you've been avoiding. And so in order to apologize to others, you need to forgive yourself. Remember, I don't think they see this anymore because I've been on planes recently, and the flight attendants used to say, put on your mask first before you put on, another person's, your person maybe you're traveling with, or a child's mask. Basically, help yourself first before you can help others. That's the same concept. You can't give empathy to someone else if you don't have it for yourself. You can't give grace to someone else if you don't have grace. And a lot of times we think that we can, but you know the concept and you've seen it play out, my friend. Hurt people because they really haven't dealt with and managed the past things that have come up in their life. And so they continually repeat those incidences. And I know you're here because you're brave and you want to move forward. Sometimes we do bad things, or we've done something that we're not proud of, but that does not make us bad people. You are not a bad person. You might have done something that was a little trifling, and I'm laughing with you, okay? Not at you. But that doesn't make you a bad person if you course correct, if you acknowledge, you repent, speak it out loud, and apologize. And then you pivot and you change your behavior and change your ways. So when you get that, when that tape is playing in your head about I'm a horrible person, why did I do this, blah, 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 you can do a couple of things. Number one, you can take a couple of breaths. Just interrupt that thought by just breathing. You can't do both. So try interrupting that negative thought by taking a few deep breaths. You can replace it with another phrase or statement. So instead of saying, I'm a horrible person, you can say, I'm a great person who's focused on my growth. Find something to replace that old tape. Remember back in the day, and I'm dating myself now, there used to be those cassette players that you put in, and then if you didn't want to hear that old, maybe an album that you recorded or a song that you recorded, you simply recorded over it. This is what we're doing. We're recording over this old paradigm, these old words, these old thoughts that are not serving us. And so find words that work for you by telling your brain, which is really telling yourself, I'm not a horrible person, and that I'm now focused on my growth and my future. You can also change your scenery. So sometimes when those thoughts come up, I think I've seen people use this as a strategy. They just get up and change the scenery. There might be a trigger being in a certain place. I say remove those things and try not to be in those places, spaces, or around those things until you heal. So change your scenery, whether it's even in your house, getting up, walking into the living room, or literally just going for a walk, going to the park, doing something different to change your scenery from something that may trigger that memory or that tape to start playing. This is the strategy that I use a lot, and you might think it's really, really silly. This is something that Deepak Chopra talks about. He says that the mind is so powerful and so trainable that literally when a thought comes into your mind, like, I'm so horrible, you go next. And it shifts to the next thought. You tell it what to do. I use that a lot. It seems really silly, but I want you to try it. The next time something comes into your mind that you go, where the heck did that come from? Just say next, and it'll take you to the next thought. It's like changing the channel in your brain, and it's like, okay, next thought, right? Really, really interesting how that works. So, again, we've all had to do this kind of work in the aim of progress, in the aim of intent of being a better person. This video, you're here because you want to be better. Now, if you want to keep doing the same things that you're doing and pretending that you're not doing it and blaming others and blaming your past and blaming your childhood and blaming your boss, this is not the video for you. This video is about taking accountability for things that you have done, whether you've intended to do them or not. And so it's really important to think about it from that perspective, as well as just remembering this is for you. This is for you to get better. This is for you to get free. This is for the shackles of shame and guilt and hurt and despair and all of those icky feelings that you feel about yourself to begin to dissipate over time because you're dealing with it. You're dealing with it. And boy, are you courageous, my friend. I'm so proud of you. So if you like what you're hearing so far, click on the like button. I'd love to hear any comments that you have about what I've shared so far in the comment section. We're going to move on to the next A. So we talked about the first A was acknowledging your feelings. The second A was accepting responsibility. The third A was apologizing to yourself. And the fourth A is, now we're getting into some heavy stuff, is apologizing to the people that you hurt. So it is so important to, if you're in the business of maybe wanting to repair a relationship or you want to make amends, you're going to have to be vulnerable. You're going to have to cast aside and put aside yourself in the bigger aim of being reconnected, reunited with this person or this place or whatever it is that you're going after. You're going to have to exercise some humility. And you can apologize for many different reasons, right? Some people do it for accountability because they have an accountability partner, or they do it because of forgiveness, for empathy. What I'm really talking about in addition to that, or in concert with that, is really about reconciliation. And so apologizing really helps you to become more self-aware about yourself and helps you stop. That's why the first thing we talked about is stopping and acknowledging your feelings and then accepting responsibility. And when you do that, apologizing helps you accept what happened and to move forward. And you're doing it from a place of not being shameful or guilty of your past. You're doing it from a place of real intent that says, I am genuinely sorry for what I did to you or in this situation. So I want to read to you this quote by Nelson Mandela that I want you to let it sit in, because this is you. You're brave. You're taking steps. He said, I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers the fear. Nelson Mandela. So we are pushing through the fear, putting our egos aside, letting ourselves be selfless in the aim of reconciliation, repair, and moving forward in our lives. Now, just because you apologize does not mean that the person's going to forgive you. And so I want you to remember that. This is not a magic bullet, but the apologizing is really for you to be free, to let go, because you've processed through that acceptance. You've dealt with your feelings. You've forgiven yourself. You've apologized to yourself. You've apologized to the other person, and you're freer from it. So here are some things I want you to try when you are attempting to apologize to people. So I know in the past when I've apologized to folks, what I try to do now is I try to wait. I try not to do it in the heat of the moment, because even though I may, in my heart, be remorseful, I don't sound remorseful, right? And we all know that I believe it's 70 to 90% of communication is nonverbal cues. It's your tone, it's your pace, it's your pitch, it's your eyes, it's your body language. So I might be saying, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to do that to you, but I'm sorry. That's not remorseful. That's not showing empathy, right? You've got to maybe take a step back and give yourself a little space to say, to be able to approach this person or the situation. Like, I'll tell you some things that I've done when I needed to just kind of give that person some space, or I needed space. I would do things like video apologies, audio text apologies. I've written handwritten letters and mailed them to people. I want you to, again, express remorse. Offer to make amends. Let the person know that you plan on being a better person, but then guess what? You got to be a better person. But sometimes we've done something so crazy or heinous, or the person perceives it as such, that it's going to take a little work. It's going to take a little work. So let them know that you're committed to reconciliation, that you're willing to get better, and just take actions that you're going to take actions to do so. And the last thing that I want to say about that is avoiding excuses. Avoid excuses. Don't try to qualify your apology with excuses. That only leads to blaming and gaslighting, and then just all kinds of interesting interactions that does not push the conversation or push the healing and push the reconnection forward. Even if you were right, this goes back to saying, what's bigger than my ego, what's bigger than me being right, is that I really want this person in my life. And that takes a lot of courage. Here's another quote that I want to read to you. It says, if an apology is followed by an excuse or a reason, it means they are going to commit the same mistake again that they just apologized for. Amit Kalantri. I just think, yeah, that sounds about right. That sounds about right, because again, you're now in an argument. You're trying to justify what you did versus just saying, I'm sorry. Will you forgive me? I want to get better. I'm going to do better, and then do better. And that's going to be the 5th A. So I want to go back and recap. So the first A that we talked about is acknowledging your feelings. The second A was accepting responsibility for what the occurrence was. The third A was apologizing to yourself. The fourth A was apologizing to others. And the 5th A is really about acquiring new knowledge. And that's going to be like the coup de grace. Acquiring new knowledge are things, they're tools that you're going to do to help you get better. So in acquiring new knowledge, for me, I went to therapy. Sometimes people will tell you, especially if you want to apologize, to write a letter or do some of the things that I talked about already. Sometimes if it's so egregious and you know the person's not going to even go there, in the aim of forgiving yourself, you can still write the letter. You can still do the video recording. You can still do all those things, but you just don't send it to them, right? Or maybe, gosh forbid, they've moved on. In terms of, depending on your beliefs, if they're in heaven or wherever, whatever, right? So sometimes you can't reach that person to apologize. But you do need to process through the steps that I shared, because you need to get free. You can, read books, podcasts, go to courses. You can join different meetup groups locally. Find that auntie, find that trusted auntie or uncle, find that trusted mentor, someone who's not going to judge you and tear you down, who you can really just say, I did these things, I'm not proud of them, but I just need to get it out, right? If you don't want to go to therapy or don't have maybe the means at this time to go to therapy or a counselor, but get it out, my friend, get it out, get it out. So those are steps that I want you to take to stop beating yourself up. Forgive yourself, let it go, my friend. Move on with your life. Life is so beautiful. I want you to live your best life. And those are some things that you can do to stop beating yourself up on the path to living the best life possible. But let's now deal with people who keep throwing this stuff up in your face. This part of the video is going to be very quick, but I know you're going to get a lot out of it. So once again, if you like what you're hearing, please hit the like button, share, and consider subscribing. How do you deal with those people? I got two things I want to say about that. Number one, I want to say something that Tony Robbins talks about all the time. He says that proximity is power. And he's usually talking about that in terms of being around people or in spaces that are in alignment with your goals, your purpose, and your passion. I'm going to take that same proximity and power and bring it directly to you in terms of, why are you still around these people who don't celebrate you? They don't even like you. And yet you continually put yourself in those circumstances where they can belittle you or talk crazy to you. So keep this in mind, that family is not necessarily blood, but it's those people who love you, And in the words of R.C. Blakes, my favorite person on this earth right now and probably forever, go where you are celebrated, not where you are tolerated. And I actually have a link to a short that I did that I want you to watch that reminds you of, you don't have to be any place. You are grown. Most of you are grown, okay? You don't have to be anywhere that you don't want to be. You can choose not to be anywhere you don't want to be. I don't care who it is. So proximity is power. And remember that you have the power of choice to remove yourself from the proximity of people who hurt, belittle, and demean you. The second thing I want to say about this is that sometimes there are situations, a caveat to that, is somebody that you don't see often, right? So maybe it's twice a year, 3 times a year, and they bring up the past. Oh yeah, that's you, and I remember you did this, and yeah, you still like that. I want you to adopt loving language to remind them that you are not the person that you used to be. Pause for a second. If you are still acting out, doing the things that you did, saying the things that you used to say, then this doesn't apply, because you can't build trust by being inconsistent with what you say and what you do. And just because you say, I'm sorry, or you apologize, as I said before, but you still acting crazy, doesn't mean that somebody should forgive you, because people are looking at what you do, not what you say. We say this about our children, right? They look at what you do, not what you say. Same thing with people. They're like, oh, he's still acting crazy. She's still acting crazy, right? So I want you to adopt and try to use loving language. Let me give you some examples. So if someone's saying to you, reminding of your past, you can say, I'm focused on growing from my past and building. And you know what? I'm moving on. So that's one thing that you can say. Another example is if someone says something like that, you can really just say, kind of acknowledge and say, you know what? I understand where you might be coming from, but I'd love if we can focus on where I'm going, not where I was. So that's another way. And find your own words. These are just words that I'm giving you as examples. The last thing I want to say is, example is, you can say, I'm proud of who I am and would love for us to focus on who I am now versus on who I used to be. So those are just some examples, but deal with those people. You might be practicing, trying to, rewriting the tape and doing all the things that we talk about, but you're around people chirping in your ear all the time, telling you what a hot mess you are. You don't need those people in your life, or if you have to have them in your life, limit how often they're in your presence. That's a whole nother video. All right. So I'm going to link, like I said, that video to go where you're appreciated, not where you're tolerated at the end of this video. And I want you to watch that video. The last point I want to make, you are so brave. I'm saying, it takes a lot. I've done the work. It was so hard to go, oh, I got to apologize. Right? But you can do it. You will be so much better. You'll be so much freer, and you will be a better person. And the people who are around you, you're modeling what you said you were going to do. You're committed to getting better. The last point I want to make is about owning your authenticity. It's about owning your existential authenticity. It's about living unapologetically, being true to who you are. Living in a way that reflects your values, your vision, your passion, your beliefs. And it's being honest with yourself and making choices that feel right for you, that align with the things that I just shared, and embracing your own identity, even if it's different than from what others think you should be doing or who you should be. I love this quote that I heard today. It said, or this person said, stop trying to get people to co-sign on what God has already designed. I'm telling you, I was shouting on that one, right? You are a unique human being going through life just like everybody else, trying to do the best that you can. And so don't let anybody steal from you. Don't let anybody take your joy, take your peace, take your identity, because you are one of a kind. And my friend, I'm so proud of you. If you like this video, please share, subscribe, like. I think it will bless other people if you share it. Also, don't forget to watch the Seeking Appreciation, Not Toleration video. And also, there's another video that I want you to watch that talks about 3 ways to boost your self-esteem. If you've beaten yourself up so much that you're like, man, I just feel so low, I have a video that's going to speak to you about how to reboost and rebuild your self-esteem slowly. Once again, none of this is a magic bullet. It's going to take time, but you got this. You really do. So until next time, God bless, take care, and I'll see you in the next video.